Hey, welcome everybody. This is the second Colbyashi Maru, and today I have Kristian Freeman from Cloudflare Workers. Cloudflare Workers. He's a developer advocate at Cloudflare. And Kristian, do you want to give a quick introduction to yourself?
Yeah, totally. So I work as the developer advocate for Workers at Cloudflare. It's like a serverless and many other things platform. I'm also let's see, what else do I do? I write a newsletter called Bite Size. Uh, I do a whole bunch of other things, but yeah, mostly just kind of work on like serverless and Jamstack stuff. And back in the day, I used to organize online conferences and stuff like that, which is how Colby and I met originally. Excited to be
Exactly.
here.
We were just talking how over this past year we've been talking to each other for a while, but this is the actual first time we got on the video chat with each other. It's bizarre how this last year has been going on.
Yeah, totally.
But
Yeah, I feel like I've heard
yeah,
your voice a lot because I edited your conference talk and stuff, but
right,
uh,
right.
first time we've actually talked in video
Yeah.
call. So
Yep. So Christian actually recently released an egghead course for Cloudflare Workers. We're going to be going through a project today. He's going to try to complete a guest book, a serverless guest book, within the hour that is Colbyashi Maru. So if once you're down here, if you want to learn more about Cloudflare Workers, definitely check out his egghead course. But what you can expect is, oh, did you want to make a,
I was just gonna say it's a free course too, which is like we
I didn't
made it one
realize
of
that.
those like community resources on Egghead. So I think that means you don't even need an account. You can literally just go and watch it. Um, yeah, I forgot to mention the Egghead course entirely. It's been too busy of a 2 months or something. So
Yeah. No, I started checking it out. And it's awesome. I still have yet to actually dig deep into Workers, but it's so cool, and I'm excited for today. But for all of you, if you weren't at the first Colbyashi Maru, so what to expect is we're going to be working through this project for an hour. Christian has an hour. I even have a timer this time, so you can follow along with how much time is left. And after that, he'll get through as much as he can. And if he can't make it through the entire thing, we'll talk about what the next steps are. If we get through everything early, maybe we'll play around with something different. But either way, he'll try to talk a little bit out loud throughout the process to kind of get an idea of what he's doing, what he's thinking, and I'll also try to ask some non-intrusive questions along the way. If you have any questions in the audience, definitely send them over in the chat, and I'll try
you
to
can
relay
intrude.
them over to Christian.
Yeah,
But
I'm okay with you intruding in and just asking whatever. I mean, I feel like that's a good way. You probably have the same questions that other people would have.
exactly, exactly.
So yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, if you're ready, I'm ready, and it looks like, yeah. Let me switch over to.
Yeah. Well, let me just do a little bit of like stage setting in case people want
Sure.
to
Okay.
try following along. Can you see my screen okay?
I just switched over, so your screen should now be up.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'll even full screen this. Yeah, so like I said, Workers is a serverless platform. I won't give like a huge sales pitch, but I will kind of talk, I guess, about the developer experience aspect of it, which I think is the kind of interesting, I don't know, fun part for developers. So it's a serverless platform. You deploy JavaScript functions. They're really fast. And for our case, I think this will be great. Deploying a guest book because we'll have these like a workers.dev subdomain that we can hopefully send people to in the chat and get them like testing stuff. So yeah, and the other thing I'll mention is we also have this thing that we announced called Pages, which is kind of like a Jamstack product built on top of Workers. So that's for like deploying your Jamstack apps, which I'm sure your audience, Colby, is very interested in. Deploy previews, automatic builds, and all that kind of stuff that you'd kind of expect from a platform like that. But yeah, for now, that's kind of in beta still, and I don't know. I'd love to come back and do something with Pages in the future, but for now, we can
Absolutely.
talk about Workers. So yeah, the other thing I'll say that's kind of related to this that I think is pretty unique about Workers is we have this thing right here we call Workers KV, which is basically you can kind of think of it as like a key value store on the edge. And I don't know, have you heard that term before through all of the like Workers stuff, Colby? The edge. Do you know what that
Maybe,
is?
yeah. Oh, the edge. Yes. But why don't you explain to our audience what the edge is?
Yeah. So basically the way that Cloudflare works, I feel like there is some sort of, yeah, okay, this is the diagram you want. So traditionally with a lot of cloud stuff, you have a couple servers, usually somewhere in like, I don't know, Virginia or something is what I think most of the AWS ones are. And like that's where your app
Really?
runs, right? And with static sites and Jamstack, you might get a little bit better than that by doing, like a CDN and having your assets all over the place. But instead of that, what we do is we take your workers and we deploy it to all of our servers around the world. Those are our edge servers. It's called an edge network. And so basically, you can actually come here, workers.cloudflare.com, and test this yourself. But the idea is like basically your serverless functions are going to be run somewhere really close to you. So mine is 13 milliseconds away. I think that's probably like Dallas or Houston or something like that. But you get really low latency for free, and it's just deployed all over the place. And for me or you, frankly, that's not a huge deal because I think we're pretty like spoiled when it comes to latency and stuff like that. But for instance, if you live in like Australia or something like that, like you're probably used to really slow internet because everything is coming from around the world. You're kind of constrained by like physics, basically. But when you're deploying your workers functions, they're going to go not only to the stuff right around us, but also to the servers in Australia and wherever else. So it's pretty cool.
And I think it's
Yeah,
also interesting because like typically when people think about like a CDN where that's kind of representative of the edge, they might think of static files where you're kind of caching those the static files to be able to get to the person who's visiting the site. But this is actually performing functions that you can do dynamic work at that same edge location.
totally. Yeah, and actually, like our pages tool is built on top of workers in KV. So like we are also doing that sort of CDN static asset stuff. But yeah, as we'll get into, we have basically this very crazy kind of like mind-boggling thing where it's like now you're not just running code like at a server. You're now like you have some sort of site, like a static site, and now you're like running code in between your server and your user, basically is the way to think of it. So you can do things like bring HTML pages in and then like rewrite them using workers and then send something that's like a kind of halfway dynamic, halfway static thing to your users. So yeah, I don't want to spend too much time like doing there's a lot of cool stuff here, but I think maybe we can just get
Mhm.
started and I'll show you how to deploy. Let me make a new. I just had a VS Code up here earlier to sort of test. My keyboard, hopefully, is not too loud. I'm sorry.
No,
Um,
I don't hear it at all, so you're good.
okay,
But
is
let
that
me
the
know
right?
whenever you're ready,
Yeah. The timer
and
hasn't
I'll cut
started
over to the
yet.
timer. Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's start it. I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. All right, and here's Colbyashi Maru.
Cool.
All right, cut over.
Um, Dun dun dun. Okay. Yeah, so I'll give Colby some links. Also, imagine this will go out in like a more final form or something so we can like provide links and stuff. But I'm gonna skip a lot of the setup of our command line tool specifically, which is called Wrangler. It's pretty easy to install and configure. You just have to go, set up a Cloudflare account and stuff like that. But I'm gonna assume, I already have it installed, as you might imagine. It would be weird if I didn't, I guess, as the developer advocate. So I'm going to run Wrangler generate guestbook. This is going to make a new project. And this is just going to be like a really straightforward project. I guess the other thing I didn't think about is like, so what a guestbook is like what? It's just a list of people who have come to the page and then a form of some kind, right? Should we define that
Yeah,
more
it's really just
specifically?
like it's really just a comments, right? Like where so this
Yeah,
same practice could be used for comments on a blog post or something like that. But really, it's the visitor comes to the site and they write something and it kind of gets stuck in time with the data attribute on there and people can see
totally.
it.
So maybe what I'll do actually is I'm gonna just change this slightly. I'm gonna run Wrangler generate guest book, and then I'm gonna pass in this site flag. And this basically sets up what we call a worker's site. This is basically, you can think of it as like a more Jamstacky version of this project. So it's going to be, I'll open it up here. It's going to be like the workers function, but then it's also going to give us a folder to put static assets in. So this is like kind of the V1 that we made of Cloudflare pages that we're going to kind of encourage
Mhm.
people to move more towards pages because you get all the cool automatic deployment stuff. But for now, like this will work fine. So can you see those files okay on the side, or should I make it bigger?
Yeah, I think that looks good. The
Okay.
audience, does it look good to you? Let us know if you want us to increase the font
Yeah.
size at all.
So basically we have, yeah, public, which is our static assets, and workers site, which is our serverless function. So I'll go in here and kind of explain how this works, but you can think of like right now, basically it's just going to, the function is just going to take all this stuff. It's just going to serve, index.html when you go to that page. Um, so yeah, let me start by, I'm just gonna like publish it right away, and so we can like have the URL. I need to go grab my account ID from somewhere. It's okay to show this, by the way. You don't need to blur this out or anything. And I'll just show you kind of how this works. Wrangler toml is like our configuration for the serverless function. So I'm just going to paste my account ID in here. This route and zone ID is if I wanted to deploy to a custom domain, which I'm not going to do right now. I'm just going to deploy to my workers dev domain, which you'll see in a sec. Yeah, and then it's called Guestbook. The type is Webpack, so it just has Webpack stuff built in, so you can do npm install on your packages and require files from different places. Yeah, and I'll just run Wrangler publish, and then like I said, I want to give people a URL to actually go look at, and then we'll update it over time. So yeah, basically what it's doing is it builds it all locally, and then it's going to actually upload all of those assets into Workers KV. It's going to use it as kind of a file store. And then those are going to get kind of sent, like right now, it's getting propagated to all of these different servers around the world. And then there also is the serverless function that says like, hey, when someone comes to guestbook.signalnerve.workers.dev, let me open that right now. You'll get the corresponding. So this would be like your index.html. This is like served from an image. So yeah, that's our first deploy. We're done. Just kidding. But yeah, now that we have it deployed, so we can hang on to this URL and add more stuff here. Yeah, how does that all make sense so far? Any questions come out of that?
I think we just got one comment that the fact that you're using light mode instead of dark mode.
I can change it. Would that be easier? I
I
don't have a preference either way. What is
I
the
think
what
it
is
was
the
mostly
dark?
just a joke, but it's up to you.
I actually kind of like this one. Do you like that one? Or is that like harder
Yeah,
to
I think it
read?
was good.
Okay.
I think
Well,
that
I'll
was good.
keep changing. That'll be the running joke because I'll use every single theme I have throughout the entire thing.
Just cycle through.
Cool. Okay. So yeah, so let's actually go and look in here. I'm gonna pull up the serverless function. So this is all like from default, right? We haven't changed anything yet. I won't have you like walk through each part of this, or I won't walk you through each of it because there's a lot of config and stuff that we do for you, like setting headers and stuff like that. But the basics are that like we have this KV asset handler, and it's going to say, okay, this person's requesting index.html. Let's go look up that corresponding thing in workers KV, and then it just serves it back as it serves back a response, and then kind of figures out based on, if it's .html, we'll set the content type that says like this is an HTML page. If it's .png, we're like, okay, we think this is an image, et cetera, et cetera. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually clear out a lot of this. Let me just remove the comment. I'm going to make this just a little bit easier to read. There's a lot of kind of template-y sort of stuff here that I'll just clean up. And like headers and stuff like that. Like there's just a lot going on. I'll just remove this as well. It's not being used. So yeah, cool. I think that I think the right way to start doing this is that we'll actually do the KV like storage part of it. And so I guess the way that I'll do that is I'll just make a new function, and I'll call it like get guestbook entries. Probably need to be asynchronous. And then maybe I'll just start by like returning some stub data. So then we can, actually make sure it gets propagated into the template, and then we'll actually make it dynamic. How does that sound?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. So I'll just say like entries, I'll make it an array. And I'll just give it one entry in here. So maybe it'll have like, should have like author, text, and then date. How does that sound?
Yeah, I think that's good enough.
Okay. So I'll say author
Unless you want to add
Kristian.
emoji support.
I would love to add emojis, but I find it really hard to type emojis in VS Code. I don't know if you have that experience, and maybe it's a Windows VS Code thing, but it doesn't ever work for me.
Mm.
I'll say, let's see, text, hello, hello. And then date, I'll just say new date. Um, yeah. Cool. Is that I never remember the right way to do dates. I guess we'll find out. Is it date.now? Is it new date? I don't really know. Um, yeah, cool. Okay, and then I'll just return this for now. So eventually this is going to be like, go get the actual data from KV. Um, and I'll talk about how that aspect of it works. Eventually this will be, like live data that you can actually like persist, and it'll be persisted across all of the data centers too. So you just kind of configure it once and then everything just sort of works, which is awesome. Um, yeah, and then so I'm gonna do. There's a lot of different ways to do this next part, which is like getting this data into this HTML template. I think I'm gonna try and do like the fun, interesting one, and I will try and explain it. And if it doesn't make sense, you let me know, okay? But this is like the cool kid way to do it. I feel like, and I want it to be like fun and exciting. So I'm gonna use a thing. Let me go find the docs for it, just so people have that up. So we have a thing called HTML rewriter, which is, in my opinion, like maybe the most underrated thing that we have in Workers. It's super, super cool. It's a streaming HTML parser and rewriter built right into Workers. So I don't know if you've ever seen that like Stack Overflow thing where they talk about like parsing HTML and XML, and then like the Stack Overflow answer turns into this like weird Cthulhu text. Have you seen that before? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I haven't seen that. No.
I'll see if I can find it. Stack
Do we have time to?
Overflow. Why not? I feel like we'll get this done so we can have fun. Oh, did they remove the fun answer? Okay, well, there's one where it's
Mm,
basically like you shouldn't try and parse XML and HTML. It's really hard. It's really slow. So we built this really awesome rewriter and parser using Rust. So it's really fast and performant. It's built into the engine of Workers. And particularly the rewriting is really useful because what it's going to let us do is basically just like add arbitrary HTML elements into the page from Workers. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this data and I'm just going to kind of inline it as like a JSON array inside of the template, and then we can just like use it in the template as if it's like always set, even though it's like literally coming from the serverless function. So yeah, does that make sense?
yeah. So just to clarify why you have to do that instead of the original response, because it just returns the string, right?
Yeah, so this is getting that's a great question. So this is getting uploaded to Workers KV. The other way I could have done this is I could have just literally made like a template string, like an HTML page inside of a template string and just inlined it that way, right? So I could have said like
Mm,
template.js can make a new file, and then I could say like, template equals require slash template, and then just like put it in as a string, which is fine. That's a totally acceptable way to do it. But I think more interesting is like if you already have your static site or you already have your Jamstack project, whether that's through Workers or like Netlify or like maybe you have it on like GitHub Pages or something. I don't know, wherever you have it, right? This is going to let
right.
you like put data into your static site or your Jamstack site, like no matter where it is, it's getting passed through Workers, and then we're going to like do some fancy stuff to put data in there, and then it's just going to get sent through to the client. Does that make
And it's
sense?
not fun to maintain and it's not fun to try to maintain HTML to string. So I think we've all been there.
Exactly. That's another thing. Yeah, that's how I used to do it. Like when I first started here, that's how I used to do things. And then when we started having better tooling that is like more sort of uh, what people would do normally, right? It's not like that's not how people want to work. They want to have like their own repo where they have like deploy previews and stuff. It's the reason that we're doing pages. But this is also, I think, like a cooler sort of long term approach. So yeah, so here's how this will work. So actually, I'll put it down here. So I'm just going to set up a new rewriter. So I'll say rewriter equals new HTML rewriter. And then I'm going to say rewriter on. And I'm basically going to give it, this is like a jQuery kind of selector. I think that's not technically what we call it, but that's how I think of it in my head is it's like a jQuery selector. So you could do things like div, I don't know, bar or something right here. But for now, I'll just say head, and then I'm going to say like add guest book entries. Um, so that is basically going to say when when any sort of content comes through this rewriter, if we see this head tag, then we're going to process it with this function, which we'll write in a second. And then the final thing I'm going to do is instead of just returning this response, which right now is just like that plain HTML page, I'm going to say rewriter transform response. And so let me look at the docs and make sure I did that correctly. I just want to double check because I feel like I'm seeming very confident. I just want to make sure that I do it correctly. Yeah. So yeah, you make a new rewriter, you add a handler, which is this on, and then you just transform a response coming through. So we already have this response from KV. Now we're going to pass it through the rewriter and like do something interesting with it, basically. So yeah, let's set this up. So I'll say add guestbook entries. This can be either a class or an object. It's up to you how you want to define this, but I tend to like doing objects better. This is just going to have this thing called element, which is a function. And inside of this element is basically my, this is like my entire head section of my HTML. So maybe I'll actually come in here and look at this. So that's this section, right? So when this gets
Mhm.
passed through, I now have access to this as as an object, basically, with a bunch of different functions in it that I can use. I can come
And
in
that's
here
because you
and
defined that in that on reference, right?
exactly, yeah. So I can do things like inspect the tag name. I have an iterator for like attributes. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna use this. Let's see. I want append, and this is gonna let me insert content into the head tag. So what I'm gonna do is say element dot append, and I'm gonna say, and this is the only time I'm just gonna write like straight up HTML in JavaScript, hopefully. So I'll say script ID, let's say entries, and then type, I'll say application JSON. And then inside of this, actually, I'll make this a template string. You just did a video on template strings, right? Did you like just
Did,
upload
yeah,
that? Yeah, I
I
saw
did.
that. So
My
I'm
new
gonna
jelly drop.
do, what was that?
It's my new jelly drop series.
What is a jelly drop?
That's it's just the name I gave it. The little like fundamental videos, they're called jelly drops.
Ah, that's
Just
fun.
a
I
silly
like
way
that.
to categorize them.
It sounds like a snack, like a jelly drop, like a candy you
Yeah.
would find in like a Suncoast. I don't think Suncoast exists anymore, but it seems like that's what you get at Suncoast.
Right. Right.
Okay. So get guestbook entries. And actually what I'm gonna do here is I'm
Hey team,
gonna,
today we're
because
going
I
to
know
talk
this is
about
gonna be
Storybook.js.
asynchronous,
We're going to talk
right?
about
At
what
some
it
point I'm
is
gonna go
and
get
how you
data
can.
from KV. I
Hey team,
don't
we're going.
think that I need to do an await on this yet. Why don't I make it not async for now? But I'm just going to call out that at some point there's going to go be some async await thing I need to do here. And so this will all need to become asynchronous. But for now, it'll just stay synchronous. So yeah, I'm going to do, so this is going to return an object, right? Or no, an array with entries inside of it. I'm just going to call JSON.stringify in here and just make it, an array of guestbook entries. So then what's going to happen is it's going to load that HTML page. It's going to pass it through HTML rewriter, and it's going to append this little script tag into the head of the page. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does, yes.
Okay. Let's try it. How am I on time? Oh
I
yeah.
guess when I was trying to grab the jelly drop, I accidentally doubled up on the audio, but we're good now.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah, so we're about 43 minutes left, 44 minutes left. So you have plenty of time.
Oh, well, that doesn't look like what I wanted. I think that's okay. So what did I do? Oh, right. Okay. So just to show you, so it literally just put text in there. I mean, we can see the data at least is coming in, right? So that's coming from the worker.
Mhm.
It's being inlined in there.
And even the entries, we can see the entries out there.
Yeah. And the reason that it's doing that is I actually need to pass a second argument in here, which is I think it's HTML. I'll go and double check that. But basically saying like, hey, this thing that I'm trying to append, it is HTML. Where is the document? Did I miss it? Content options. Oh my God, it's used 31 times. There we go. HTML Boolean. Okay. So yeah. Okay. So I'll say HTML true. Let me republish it again here. The other thing I can also show, maybe it'd be cool just to show this, is instead of me publishing this over and over again, we actually have a command called Wrangler dev, which basically sets up a local development environment at localhost. It's not quite local development because it actually still is uploading it to one of our like preview servers, and then it's running it through there. And the reason for that is that like we want you to be able to test using KV and stuff like that still, right? But
Right.
if I open this up, so this should look basically the same, but this part is gone. So let me inspect
So do you want to
element here.
quickly? So what's actually happening to that string when you're dumping it on? Is it getting escaped so that it's safe for the web? I guess
Um, it's not, but it could be. You could definitely do like
before you're doing the
escape.
HTML.
Yeah, that would be like a security thing for sure. What do you call that? What's that kind of escaping, like
Is the intruder?
XSS or something? Isn't that what
Or
that's
yeah, something
called?
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we could do like JSON stringify. Uh, okay, don't let me forget to fix that. Okay, but I'm gonna leave it for now. But I'm really bad at things like that. So if we figure out how to escape that, is it just escape? Is that just what you write? Do you know?
Uh, I don't know.
I have no
We
idea.
could.
Okay.
So my only point was that like so when it's showing it like that, it's for like a security reason, so that I think similar to React, so that somebody can't just dump a bunch of HTML on a page. That's why you have to use something like the render. What is it? Inner
It's like
HTML,
dangerously
dangerously
set
set.
inner
Yeah,
HTML, right?
yeah. So like it's a security reason to prevent people from doing malicious things.
Yeah, let's not forget to do that. um, yeah, because I think it might just be escape. But we can double check that. So, okay. So, so right now we have this data coming from just the static, the static page. Maybe what I'll just come in here and do real quick. I'm just going to hide this local thing real quick, and I'm going to save this so it reformats. I'm just gonna like quickly render out those those entries and just have them look I don't know, at least so we can see them. How do I want to do that? Have you used Alpine before? Do you know Alpine.js is?
I know of it, but I haven't used it before.
It's pretty cool. I'm a little worried that I'm gonna like shoot myself in the foot by trying to use it, but I think I'm gonna try it because I feel like it'd be good for this kind of thing. So it's kind of like Vue. I think it's kind of like Vue. I'm not a big Vue user, but people say that it's like Vue. So I'll basically just use it to do a little bit of like nice templating. I'm also gonna just remove some of this stuff that I'm not gonna use anymore, like from the old template. So I'll say Kristian's Guestbook. And then I think basically what I want to do, let me look at the docs here for Alpine. So they basically have a thing you can set up that's like a template um, tag. Yes, it's this one. Can you see that okay? Or should I make it bigger?
Yeah. Maybe make it a little bit bigger.
Okay.
But
Boom. There we go. Actually, I guess I want X4. So I'm basically going to say, I'm going to look for the entries, and I'm just going to render out this element for each thing in there, right? So for each entry, I'll say like, okay, this is the name, this is the text, this is the date that it was published. So I'm just going to copy that in, and I'm just going to leave that there for a sec. And then the other thing I'm going to do is actually like set up that whole getting the entries out of the script tag. So it'll be, let's see, what did I call it? I called it entries, I think, right? So script ID entries. So I'll say document.query selector, script entries, and there's no way I'm just gonna be able to do this from like the first guess or whatever. So let me actually just do it in the console of like how to actually parse it and things like that. So it's going to be script entries. That's going to give me the tag. I guess I want the inner text, I guess, is what I want. Yeah, inner text. And then I'm just going to JSON parse this whole thing. Whoops, wrong button. Yeah, and that will give me an array of entries. Just going to copy that. That's not the kind of thing that I can just like think of in the top of my head. I really need to like run through it in the console. Okay, so I'll say entries. Actually, I'll make it really simple. I'll just say window.entries equals JSON parse. Maybe just to be a little bit safer, I'll say like entry data, and I'll just take all of this and I'll say document query selector script entries. This is going to be duplication of code. Sorry. I'll just say if it exists, do that. Else, I'll just give it. This is like a very weird. I should have just done it. I don't know. It doesn't really matter that much. I feel like, but I just don't want it to like blow up if there's no data set,
Right.
basically. Okay, and so then what I can do is I'll say for entry in entries, key is going to, this is like your React key. It's really similar. So it's just going to be like some value of some kind that's unique, that causes it to be able to render a little bit better. I'll just use date because I think that's like a fairly unique value. And then I'll just say entry dot, what did I call it? Text. And I turned my oh my gosh, I turned caps lock on and it broke Vim. Um, cool. Okay. I think that's going to work. Though it looks like Wrangler dev crashed. Oh, okay. Let me restart it. That happens. Though it's above my pay grade to know why, because I don't know how to write Rust. Okay. So let me refresh. Kristian's guestbook. So something didn't go perfectly right here, but I think that's okay. I think it's probably maybe just needs to be window.entries here. Kristian's
Does
guestbook.
the template need to be after?
That's a good question. Let me try window.entries first. I also don't know like how Alpine like runs stuff in order.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, I'm clearly doing something wrong here. So let me just do, there's another thing that I usually end up doing, which is I set up their X init, which is like basically context for your application. See, this is why I shouldn't have used Alpine. I was gonna mess it up. Let's just do this. I'll say function app. I'll just do it like the way they have it set up here, and then I'll just return. Yeah, so I'll return entries, and I'll just make this a function, and then I will just. I don't know why it set it to 2 tab. Like, it's way too much, you know? How do I change the tab spacing? What's the, like,
I installed it.
change?
I literally installed a plugin because I couldn't figure it out.
Convert indentation. Is it really not? Oh my gosh, this is probably just, like, brutal for someone watching. They're like, "It's blah, blah, blah."
Right.
Okay, so JSON parse entry data. So, basically what I'm gonna do here now, this should work better, is I will say body, X init app, and then this will set up like the entire body as an application, based on this function. And then in here, I should just be able to do um, entries. Hopefully, if this doesn't work, I will just give up on Alpine and I'll just do it with vanilla JavaScript.
So the
Come on.
exit is kind of like the unload, or like if you remember in jQuery, you would wrap it with the $ function, right? So that it fires it after it's loaded.
You would you would think so. You would think that's how it should work, but it doesn't. Oh, it's X data, not X init. I don't know what the difference is between X init and X data. I thought it'd be fun to use, but I really am just shooting myself in the foot here. Okay, let's refresh it and see.
Yeah, that's
Hey,
good.
there we go. Okay, so that's my first. What am I at? I have 38 minutes on my, or no, that's the wrong timer. 33 minutes.
33.
Uh, yeah. Okay, so let's just put the rest of that data in there. So I'll say div. I'm just gonna make divs for now. This is gonna be really ugly. I'm sorry. It's really
It's
good
okay. We'll bear
programming.
with it.
So text, author, date. Um, okay, refresh. What I do wrong? Entry dot text, entry dot author, entry dot. Oh, I think this can't. This is kind of like React, where everything needs to be in like a parent. There can only be one child element of the template. You know what I mean? Like with
Yeah.
a React component. I guess that's not really the case as much anymore. But there we go. Okay,
Nice.
cool. Any questions about any of that part of it? I can blow this up a little bit too.
Anybody have any questions yet? I'll let you know if anybody shouts.
Okay. Okay, so we have static stuff coming from the function, right? So this is our static content. It gets passed through HTML rewriter into our template. Our template then renders it. So now what we're going to do is first we're going to actually, I guess to start, we'll create a KV namespace, which is like your personal sort of space to put KV data in. And then we'll make it so you can both submit data. So we'll put together like a little form where you can submit data to KV, and then we'll also do a like a request here to pull it out of KV and show it. Um, yeah, show it here in the template. Yeah, so to do that, let me just open up a new window. So we have a command in Wrangler for this. There's KV namespace create. I'll just call it like guestbook. So it's just going to make this new KV namespace. It gives you this code to just like copy into your configuration. That's this Wrangler toml. So I'll say KV namespaces. I will paste that in at the bottom. One thing that's worth noting if you are interested in doing any sort of KV stuff with Wrangler, so there's your ID, which is like your unique ID for your KV namespace. There's also a preview ID, and this is for, oh, did I pasted way too much there. But your preview ID is basically like if you want to have a separate namespace for Wrangler dev. So when you're doing local development, maybe you want to point to like a different KV namespace. For now, I'm just going to use the same one because I don't want to make multiple. But this would be like, you have your production data, which like you want to be very careful you don't screw it up, and then you have your sort of preview, which is like, okay, I can mess this up and it'll be okay. So let me restart this real quick. Oh, what did I do wrong? Unknown field. I think this actually needs to be up here. This is like toml stuff. Have you used toml before?
Only for like I think this Netlify configuration.
Yeah. I think if you
So not
put it
really.
underneath the way that toml parses, I think that it parses it as part of this. If you have anything underneath here, which is not great, but that's like a toml thing. So yeah, okay. So it started back up. There shouldn't be any sort of like, I mean, there's no change here, right? We basically just added a config, and nothing is especially different. But what I do want to do is now set up the like taking form entries, so new stuff from the page that comes in, like submitting a guestbook entry. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to come up to the top of this handle event. This is kind of like the main function for your serverless code, and I'm just going to do um, let's see, what should be the route here. So it'll be a form, right? And it's gonna like post to some sort of route. So maybe I'll say like if URL path name equals new entry, then this will be like, handle incoming data, right?
So because
Um,
we're in a serverless function handler, we're able to capture those path names, right? As opposed to a typical static site where we're kind of at the mercy of the static files and the routing that happens after that.
Totally. Yeah. So we have this event that comes in, and the main thing in the event is this request, and that represents like everything about the incoming request. So URL path name, like headers, any data for like the body of the request that's coming in, which we'll look at here in a little bit when when we have data coming in. And yeah, we'll be able to inspect any of that. So I'm really bad at like remembering how form stuff works. Like I'm again one of those people, I just have to like start doing it and trying to break stuff to remember how it works. So I'm gonna leave this just kind of as is. I'm gonna set up the form, and then I'm just gonna just like send stuff up to here and then see what it looks like, and kind of reverse engineer it from there, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to set up a form. I think is it action is what that's called, where it's a new entry. Is it
It could be a
action?
type post, I think, right?
Okay, yeah. Type post. I feel like it needs to be like that. Is it type or is it method?
Method. I just looked it up. It
Okay.
looks like it can be lowercase. I don't know if
Okay.
it matters actually, but
I don't know if it matters either. But
yeah.
that's fine. Okay, so I'll say input type text placeholder your text, and then I'll just say name equals or not name, text, right? What did we call this? We called it author, text, and date. Okay, so that'll be our text. Close that. I'll just copy this again and do it for your name. I'll call that author. And then date will be, set by the function as it passes through, right? So we'll say like, oh, here's a new
Right.
entry. When was this posted? At this time. Cool. So I'll refresh here. Let's see if that shows up. Oh, did my Wrangler dev quit? I'm pretty sure this is what happens when you run a weird Windows like subsystem for Linux setup like I have, is that Rust things just crash. So that's probably my bad. Okay, so I need to do a submit here too, don't I? So I'll say button type submit, and I'll say add entry. Um, cool. Okay, so I'll let that refresh. And so I'll just do a test here. So I'll say hello again, and then my name will be Kristian2. I'm just gonna keep this. I'm gonna clear the log here, and I'm just gonna preserve the log so I can see what the request looks like, and then that'll help me kind of understand how I need to handle it on the serverless function. Um, okay, post is not a valid request method. Maybe it does need to be lowercase. Maybe that's what that is. So I'll
Hmm.
try that in a sec. Did it actually still post though? Very
Yeah, I
interesting.
would think that.
Yeah, okay, so I guess it needs to be lowercase, which is weird, but if I maybe make this a little bit bigger so you can see. If I come down here, there's this form data here, right? So it's gonna have text, it's going to have author, and then in the function, I'll parse that out of the request body, and yeah, I'll put it into KV. So let me. If you saw it lowercase, I'm just gonna assume that it needs to be lowercase, so I'll change that there.
Hopefully
Um,
that's all that it needs. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what I will do here is I'll say, okay, this URL path name is new entry. So I'm going to say const data equals, so it's going to be event request. I don't actually remember what the right function here will be. So let's go find out. Um, we're trying to get the data out, right? So I know we could probably do request.body, but I don't know if we might have like a better function for that, like a form. Let's go down to
Mm,
methods here. Form data. I think
nice.
that's what we want.
That makes it
Yes.
nice and easy.
So form data, it's going to be a promise. So I need to do await here. And that will be, that'll resolve into, I would assume, I don't actually know what the form data class is. I thought it was gonna be an object. Uh, okay. Well, let's see what it looks like. Console log data. So, actually, maybe I can do this. So I can just like set up responses of any kind. So in the past, you've been returning like HTML and stuff like that. But I also have this response class where I can just like do anything with it. So I can basically just stringify JSON and just return JSON back. And I'm just going to do that so that I can hopefully figure out what the data looks like after that form data. I can also just like I don't know. I could probably recreate it in Node console and debug that way. Um, I have these mixed up. So I'll say Kristian2. Well, that's not helpful. I feel like the form data
It might,
class
yeah.
doesn't like to be turned into.
But at least the
Uh,
response worked this time.
yeah, it did. So it seemed like changing the post did help there.
Mm.
What happens if I console log it? Empty here too. Super cool. That's
Sweet.
awesome. Should I just try and post JSON? I feel like maybe that'd be easier. Form
Yeah, maybe.
post JSON.
I'm also. It looks like there's a form.entries method.
Oh. Oh, and it's an iterator. Oh, maybe I'll
Or
do
maybe
that.
that get all function.
Yeah, let's try that before I change everything again.
Yeah.
So for let's see, what did they do? I'm literally just gonna copy. I never write
Well, you can
iterators.
probably instead of like maybe at the end of form data, just tack on that method, unless you prefer to, and it should return. I would think that would return an array, right?
Like
Or
that,
maybe
right?
wrap it with or maybe you can wrap it with array from. If not,
Like await to wrap the entries with array from.
well, the whole I think it would need to be the. Well, let's see if this works as it is first, because maybe that will return what we
Okay,
want, and
I'm
it'll
so
console
bad
log
at
out it too.
forms.
So
I'm learning stuff here too. This is great because I'm horrible at them. Okay. If I refresh, no. Okay, I need to go back and do it again. Oh no,
oh,
form
let's
data
see.
dot entries is not a function. Okay,
So it's probably not an actual form data class then. Instance, I mean, rather.
yeah, that's interesting. Console. I was just gonna do console log data dot entries and see what that looked like.
Yeah. But it's nice that you get the console log right in the
Yeah,
output there.
well, that's the nice thing about like local development, right? Um, Let me try
But because it's on the
refreshing.
server, I wasn't sure if you'd get that live down there.
Totally. Yeah. That was like kind of the crucial thing we need. We need logs, right? Okay. I guess the other thing that I could do is I don't really know. I've never really used the form entries thing because I feel like normally I just do like JSON. Because I'm used to working with static apps. But okay. I think what I'm gonna do
And
is
just
I'm
as a
gonna
heads up, you have 20 minutes.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry for breathing into the mic. Let me just do this then. I'm just gonna say form action. So can I just post JSON quickly? Post JSON form. Oh my gosh, I thought I would get this done, but
I
I
think
don't
you would
know if
just
I'm
need
going to.
to capture it with
Like a JavaScript function, probably, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Let's see.
So
Somebody just posted in the chats an example of from Cloudflare. Maybe that could help from the form.
okay. Examples. Form. Yeah, well, I should do form data. Does anyone use form data in here? Wow, it's really helpful. It doesn't show where it's from. That's a bug report. I feel like for our docs, it doesn't actually show you. Form data examples? No.
No.
Bulk origin, cache using fetch, extract cookie value, post. This is going to be posting to somewhere from Cloudflare. Okay, I'm gonna do it in. I'll just do like an on submit, right? That's what it is,
Okay.
right? Form on
Yeah.
submit. Oh, is it lowercase? On submit. Okay. And I'll just say submit form. I'll make a new function here called submit form. And I'll just say fetch new entry. It'll be a post. And the body will be JSON stringify author text. I know I'm going to have to go like get these values. So I'll just say author equals document dot query selector input name equals text and or no, I have this switched. Text is that, author is author, and then this will be inner text. Okay, now I feel like we're cruising. Hopefully. I'll make this asynchronous, and then I'll say await. Did I do that right? Or is it like, I never write async functions like this normally. Like, I guess I would do this normally.
Yeah, that should be fine.
Okay, so I'll wait for that, and then maybe what I'll just do is, like, reload. So I'll just, like, refresh it. Normally, I feel like you would, like, take the request in and then refresh or whatever, but,
Right.
okay, and then I'll
We can be a
just
little hacky for this.
yeah. Whoops, probably not a valid form now, but that's okay. I probably need to actually do that. Call it like a function too, right? Um, okay, so then yeah, it will. So to make a post with a body, JSON stringify, author, and text, and that looks good to me. I think did that look okay to you?
I think so. I think the only thing is the like a prevent default on the event, but I can't remember. Like,
Mm,
is that going to pass an event in there?
that's a great call out. Yeah, it'll. I'm not sure. That probably would have messed it up because it wouldn't probably have even had a chance to fire the function. Okay, so I'll say text to author. I just want to make sure it posts and then oh, see now it sent it as like query parameters. Maybe I should have just done query parameters.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it's not the most secure, but that's interesting that the fetch didn't turn in. Did you pass in the post method properly to the fetch? Fetch post. Because it looks like it wasn't using the post method.
Yeah, event. Well, it doesn't actually look like it did the function at all.
Oh, it
Oh
didn't.
man.
Okay.
Okay, well then maybe I'll go with this form for now and we can improve it for later. Well, I feel like I have like totally forgotten how to make forms. New entry. And then at least with this, we know we can actually like parse it better, right? So if I do like new entry, this is going to error. Obviously, it's still looking for form data.
Mhm.
Yeah, this isn't super secure. You are
It'll work
100%
for
right
now.
about that. But now I have a better sense of what to do here, at least, because I can say like author equals URL search params get author, and then the same with text. And that means we can actually like do the KV stuff here. Um, okay, so how do I want to structure this? Well, let me just like make sure I actually can console log
Sanity
this so we
check.
can get into here. Um, was this our issue the whole time? Parsing a body as form data requires a content type header. Okay, well, too late now. That's okay.
Too late.
We're on the clock. Okay, so it gives me a 404, but it didn't do so. The reason that it's going to this 404 page is we're not returning any sort of response here, which
Mm,
is okay. We'll probably just redirect them back to the main page, right? But
yeah.
for now, we can see author came in here. Let me just change this to like Kristian 123 and I can see Kristian 123 here. Okay, so now we can actually
Nice.
do something with this data, right? Man, foiled by forms is brutal. Uh, so
I admit I haven't done like pure HTML and JavaScript forms for a long time. Like,
yeah, if
because
I
I'm
had done
typically on
React, I
React.
feel like it would have been really easy. But that's that's the curse of JavaScript development, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have this binding here. This is going to be how we actually like refer to our KV namespace in our code. So I'm just going to say guest book. No, that's not what I wanted it to do. That's not how you spell guest book either. Get book. That sounds like a startup. So I'll say
There we
guestbook dot put, and then I'll do. So I basically need to give it a key of some kind. I guess the way that I'm going to want to structure this is I'm probably going to want to do a like unique key for each entry, kind of like you would in a database, right? So like I want each
go.
little entry to be its own object, and then when we get all the guestbook entries, we have a thing called the keys method, which lets you just like go look up all the keys. I'll show you what that looks like here in a sec. So I'll just let's do this. I'll say const date equals new date, and then I'll just put a key, and it's going to be entries date. Uh, I should call it toString there just to be safe. I feel like to turn it into like an actual kind of numerical value. Um, wait, what's the thing to get like a timestamp? Is that new date?
Date.now, maybe? Yeah.
Date.now. That's what I want. Um, I'm going to be making 2 dates here. I'm sorry, this is going to look really bad, but it's fine.
Or get
So
to it,
yeah,
yeah.
so entries date.now, and then I'm going to give it a bot or like a value to actually store into KV. So this is going to be a JSON string, and it's just going to be author, text, and date. And so this is going to be, okay, the key is entries, colon, a timestamp. And then the value is all of this data coming from the form. Does that make sense?
Yep. So is there anything special about the colon, or is that just kind of namespacing the key?
There isn't anything, there's no like convention that we require to do that, but I'll show you why we're going to do that is when we look up the keys, we can pass in like a prefix. And so we can say anything that is prefixed with entries, colon, whatever. You could do this however you wanted. Honestly, if you just have just this in your KV, you don't even need this prefix. But let's say we decide to add some other concept in our KV namespace or something, like we're just going to prefix it with kind of like what it is. It's just how I tend to
Makes sense.
do it, but it's not required. Um, cool. Okay. So actually what I need to do here is I just need to await this. So I need to kind of make sure that it completes. Because it's going to be like an asynchronous kind of data put basically. And then I'll just say response.redirect. Actually, will that work? I just want to redirect to the root page, but I wonder if I need to pass like a full URL here. Maybe I'll just say this is going to be kind of hacky, but I know I'm like in my last 10 minutes. I'm just going to change the path name to this, and then I'm going to redirect to this URL. So I'm just going to say like, okay, go put this in KV and then send them back to the root. So man, my Wrangler dev is crashing a lot today. Gonna be filing bug reports. Okay, so I'm gonna refresh. Oh, it didn't clear the query parameters. That's funny. Okay, well, I'll just clear them for now. But it did redirect. So I think that it worked, but now to double check, let's actually go get the data from KV. So to do that, I'll show you the thing that I've been talking about. If I go to KV in our docs, and then I go to listing keys. So there's this await namespace dot list. And so that's going to let us get all of the keys that we have in KV. So up here, I'm going to say guestbook dot list. And then I think I need to pass a prefix, which is going to be entries colon. And so that's going to be, it's going to go look up any keys that start with entries colon. I'm going to wait on that. And then that's going to give me, I'll just do it like they do in the docs. This will be values. And then inside of values, we have keys, and that's going to be our list of keys. So I'll say const keys equals values keys. Okay, so now we have all of the all of the keys for these different values. So I'm just going to say, what would this be? Keys.map key. I'm going to make this asynchronous, and I'm going to say await guestbook.get with the oh no Vim, what did you do? Okay, there we go. Wow, that was a very weird undo. Okay, so that'll give us all of our data. And then the last thing actually that's kind of interesting here is this is going to be let me double check here.
So in the code, because you set that binding as guestbook in your configuration, it's essentially making it a globally available variable for you to hook into to
Exactly.
interface with it.
Exactly. Yeah. So and what I'm going to do here is then I'm going to look through all those keys. I'm going to say await guestbook.get, give it those keys. So, entries. I keep wanting to say entrees. I feel like I'm hungry, but it's entries. And then give it that key. And then I'm also going to pass in this argument here, which is JSON. And it's just going to automatically decode it from that JSON string. You remember that we stringified it in here to give it like a string value. Now we're going to decode it back out, and we're going to get these values. So the only funky thing here is that this is asynchronous. And so I think what I want to do here is promise.all. And so that's going to
Yeah.
say wait for all of these to finish, and then I'll return values. Okay. Does that make sense? I know we're on the home
Yeah.
stretch.
So just a quick there. So what he's doing is he's creating multiple asynchronous functions inside of that keys.map, and then he's passing all of those an array of asynchronous functions to promise all, so that he can wait until all of those promises are finished before he continues.
Yeah. Right now, there's only one key, right? So it's a little bit overkill, but that's okay. Then the last thing you need to do is turn this all into async functions. So this needs to be async. Guestbook entries is now async. So I need to say await here and then turn this into an async function. And then my only other issue is that I called values multiple times here. So let's change this to entries, delete this code here, and fingers crossed that it actually works. You'll see.
I'm feeling good about it.
Okay, so let me refresh. Uh-oh, something went wrong.
Maybe not.
Intermediate value dot keys is not a function. So values dot keys await guestbook list prefix keys dot. I guess I should make sure that this is what I want it to be. Console.log keys. And then let me get up the list API and just make sure I did it correctly. Await namespace.list value dot key. Oh, is it not a function? Maybe it's just a, oh, well, that's my problem. This isn't actually a function. Whoops. That's funny. I don't know why I thought that was a function. Okay, let's refresh again. Okay, so it's empty, but if I get keys here, so this is a object of some kind. So something in our, let me just console log entries here too. So something in probably this line of code isn't cooperating. How much time do I have? 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
This is great. I love the pressure of it. I actually really like the timer. It's fun. I am a little
Nice.
nervous. I'm not going to be able to complete it, but let's see.
We can spend a little
So
time. Is it because is it an array inside of an array, a nested array? Is that maybe why?
that I don't know. Keys.map. I guess I assumed it
Isn't there a
would
method called like flat?
entries. Oh, okay. So it did get the key. Yeah, I don't
What if you run the flat method on entries so that it just essentially removes the outer array from that
entry like here.
dot flat? Yeah, and that'll be a function. Yeah.
Well, it does seem like it's getting oh, I know what it is. I actually see it right here. So the issue, it's not the flat. The issue is that key, it's not just a string key, right? It's an object that has a parameter called name. So this actually needs to be key.name. Does that make
Gotcha.
sense? So
Does,
I
yeah.
assumed it would just be like an array of strings. What do you know? That was it. Okay,
There we go.
cool. So, okay, so that
Now you
seems
gotta test
good.
it again.
Yeah, so let's go through the whole thing. I'll just save this real quick. The only other thing you need to know about KV, and I give like perfect timing for me to give a little like teaser plug thing. So I'll just make another one. Hello world, Kristian Freeman. So the way that KV works is it is what we call, and yeah, you're gonna see it probably here. It's what we call an eventually consistent data store. Now you can see it shows up here. What that means is that like you can put stuff into KV and it literally has to go and like propagate around the entire world, including at your data center. And so sometimes it's not a like literal, you submit and then whatever 0.3 seconds later it shows back up in your response. And the reason for that is it has to like propagate everywhere, right?
Right.
Around the world. Like that's just how an eventually consistent data store works. We have a thing called durable objects, which we are working on that's in beta, and it's like literally like I won't call it the opposite of KV, but it's like stateful objects. Someone's gonna get mad at me that I called it stateful objects. Or it's like it's consistent objects, basically consistent data. So, like, instead of me just, like, sending a bunch of stuff into KV and then KV will be like, "Oh, in some point in the next couple seconds, I will get you this data back." I'm kind of sending it all around the world or whatever right now. Durable objects is basically like you have another worker's serverless function that just is focused on, like, having data come in and managing storage. It's like I don't know, a
Interesting.
lot of people who are much smarter than me are like, "This is really cool." I'm still wrapping my head around it, but, like, that's kind of the idea is, like, these will be, like, extremely consistent, durable objects at the edge on serverless.
That's
Um,
cool.
yeah, so I think the last thing
And
I'll
when you say an
do
object, like that almost sounds like databasey, right?
I mean, all the people who are working on it are, like, are from database companies, and they talk about it, and I'm
Oh,
like,
interesting.
"Ah, this is over my head." Um So I just published it one more time. And so you should be able to come here and do it yourself. I
Let's
know
see
this
if I can
isn't
pull it
styled
up.
very well, but we went through a big journey of like HTML and parsing and stuff like that. So maybe I'll just do another one.
I found it. I'm gonna post it in Twitch.
Yeah, and you might have to refresh it here. But like just to and it may even take longer than one refresh because that's how workers KV works when it comes to eventually consistent stuff. But like the idea here is like you basically you have serverless functions, you have like a static. So like this could be a React app easily, right? Like I could go and plug in this folder. I could make this like a React application. I could do whatever. And like I'm deploying serverless functions on top of that React application, or in this case, a static
Right.
application. I have data that's stored on top of this. Like just to give you an example, by the way, I'm considering this like done based on our time. Does that sound okay to you?
Yeah, no. But somebody tries to use the blink tags, which I really appreciate.
Oh, someone already broke it. Oh, this is why we're gonna
Oh,
escape
it
it.
broke? Oh, it's working for me.
Really? Oh, is it my
Oh wait, now
browser?
it's broken.
How dare you guys? Just kidding. It's funny. Yeah, there it is. Someone script alert
Oh, the
ABC.
emoji? Oh, scripts. Somebody's cheeky.
That's funny. Well, how do I fix that? Is that like just escape?
Is that in the browser? uh yeah, try let's see.
You're saying it would be in here, like it'd be JSON parse, and then it would be like, I guess I would escape this, right?
It looks like the element appends ever already escapes, but I think because you're using HTML, it's throwing it in there, right? So what is it? Encode? Is it?
Oh, I just tried
Is there a way?
escape. I don't know if that's right, but we'll find out because I'm using the same preview thing. I think I shut down the Wrangler dev. Well, I like that someone made us figure it out by breaking it. Props to you.
Right.
Uh, okay, let me refresh it. Uh-oh. Well, now it's not working.
So yeah, Harris Hancock is saying to remove the HTML true, but I think we have that in there purposely still, right?
Oh, hi, Harris. Harris works with me.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, now I broke Wrangler dev, so I don't know what's going on there. But okay, well now I have
It's
my
funny because
homework to go do.
you had it done with like 10 seconds left, and then it broke.
That's okay.
I think we'll consider that done.
Okay. What was I saying before that?
Sorry, I
I
forgot.
was gonna consider something done, and then I was gonna say something else about well, it wasn't about durable objects. Yeah, I don't remember. But yeah, I mean, basically, like this was all done. I didn't spin up a Fauna database. It didn't like I like all those things. I didn't spin up a Hasura database. All those things are great, but like sometimes for like small projects, like using KV can be a great way. Like there's all kinds of things that I will just like store in KV just because it's really convenient that like don't need a full
Yeah.
database. A cooler example
Yeah.
of this that I can show you
I
real
really like
quick.
the simplicity of it. Like, not saying
Exactly.
that that it's too simple, but like the fact that you're not having to really think and complicate it with like extravagant solutions for simple things.
Yeah. Well, a great example of that is we built the site. It's called Built with Workers on the Workers like landing page, the marketing page. So it's a React, or it's actually a Gatsby application. So all of this is coming from Sanity.io. So this is like data coming from a headless CMS. But then if I come in here, I can like bookmark one of these, right? So I can say, oh, this is
Mhm.
cool. Like I'm going to bookmark this. All of this data around the bookmark comes through KV, and actually like basically exactly like what we did in this project. It gets inlined into the Gatsby like static application. And then it will
Okay.
show it as like, hey, you bookmarked this thing in the past. Like, remember you bookmarked this. Let's show it in the UI. And I can come back here and see it's bookmarked, right? And that bookmark is just for me. It's like constrained to, I think it's constrained to my browser. It's been a while since I coded it, but I believe that we take like a hash of your, I really don't remember. But
But
yeah, the
that's a nice
idea
way to
is
do it. Yeah.
right. We don't have to like, I mean, because you wouldn't put that in your headless CMS usually, right? Like it just doesn't
Mhm.
make a ton of sense. But I also don't want to like spin up a GraphQL API and database for it. Sometimes I
And like
absolutely want to do that, right? But yeah,
it reminds me of kind of like storing something in local storage, but you're able to persist it on the server between
exactly.
sessions so that you're not dumping it in there.
Exactly. This is actually a great example of this project that someone in our community built where like they have this status page where they can go look up all of these URLs, and this, whether they're able to access that URL, that information gets stored in KV. And so you have this status page that just lives on the edge. And actually even better, because of the way that the network works, it's like checking from a bunch of different data centers around the world, because that's how Workers works, is it runs things at all these different servers. So you get all this stuff and it's just like stored in KV. There's no database. It literally, like, you could deploy it on top of an existing website using like, because we have this thing called routes. So you could say like, I don't know, colbyfayok.com/status. And like it just lives in that one thing. All of the KV stuff is just in its own little KV namespace, and it doesn't impact the rest of your site, but it's a good way to kind of like dip your toes into it or whatever, right? So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's awesome. Cool.
Alrighty.
Well, awesome job. Thanks for
Thank
working through
you.
that. You know, we have an awesome guest book and bringing back the '90s of the web, right? But
Yeah. I
does
know
anybody have any
I need
questions
some blink
before?
text. That's what I should have added.
Yes, right. We need to support the plain text, but
Mhm.
and also, you know, I want to give you a chance to plug anything that you want to plug, whether it's that course or something else.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I should do that. So there's a course, this was probably more advanced than this Introduction to Cloudflare Workers courses. But yeah, this is like a free course that I did with Egghead. It's like basically setting up, so all the stuff around like the command line, Wrangler stuff, and getting all of that set up is covered in this course. I know I skipped that here because obviously I already have it set up, but it's like, how to create an account, create a workers subdomain, which is that signalnerve.workers.dev that I have. So if you want like a cool nifty URL, you can go grab one of those for your example projects at least, which I think is worth doing. Yeah, and it just shows you how to deploy stuff. Um, I mean, I guess I should plug my other stuff too. I have a newsletter called Bite Size that I write every week on what do I call it? Important ideas for developers, which is a little pretentious, but the idea is basically like, I don't know, stuff that I find interesting. It's deep diving into a topic like serverless, which is a thing I've covered in the past, and all,
And I
all
vouch
kinds of other stuff.
it's an awesome newsletter. I enjoy it a
Yeah,
lot.
let me link to it. Let me actually do a good job at this.
I sent them in there for you.
Yeah, it's just bitesize.xyz. So the most recent
Yeah.
issue was on this kind of topic called tools for thought, which is like, oh, I don't even know how to describe it clearly. I did not retain anything I wrote this week, but it's like writing in creative work in interesting ways. It's been a kind of the last couple of weeks we've done things like Emacs and Vim and VS Code, so it was a fun little like diversion into other things. I actually mentioned Colby. I mentioned Craft in there because you linked it to me. You're linking me Craft documents, and I was like, oh, this seems cool and like related to this topic. So I
Awesome.
should have given you a shout out. I think I've spaced on that, but I did discover that because of you.
No worries. Well, you also mentioned me in the Jamstack issue, which I appreciated.
Indeed. Yeah. Yeah. Cool, man. Well, I mean, I don't know. I guess the other thing is I'm on Twitter at Signal Nerve. You can find me there. And yeah, like I said, I would love to come back and do another one of these for Pages. The funny thing is that Pages is like
Definitely.
so much easier than Workers because it's literally just like we host your Jamstack apps. Like that's pretty much the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
would
I'm
love to
excited
come
to
back
get
and
my
do that.
hands in dirty with that. Yeah,
I
that
should
sounds
get
great.
you an invite. I feel like we can give
I
you
won't mind.
access to that. So, all right, man. Cool.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks again for stopping by, and thanks to everybody who caught up. We'll be back in probably 2 weeks with another Colbyashi Maru. So take care.